welcome to another CTV video. And as of the time of me making this video, I have just watched Wish in theaters. So now I have seen every single movie in the Disney animated canon so far because obviously they have more movies coming out next year. And now we will rank them. Fun fact, this is actually take 2 of this video because I messed up the first time. Anyways, on with the show. So, S is the best, A is great, B is good or okay, C is meh, D bad, and F the worst. Alright, now let's start from the very beginning with Snow White. Easily an A. Amazing for Disney's first movie. And it's the most Disney movie to ever Disney. It's everything that people associate with Disney. When people think of Disney, they think of Snow White. I mean, as a princess along to meet a prince, cutesy animals, evil queen, everything. And despite that it's been that it and the cliches that started have been parodied so many times, it still holds up very well. The animation, amazing. The songs, all iconic. The dwarves easily carried the movie. Now, Pinocchio. Easily yes. I mean, Snow White was great and everything, but Pinocchio, that's when Disney got really good. And this would probably be my favorite Disney movie ever if it weren't for another movie that we'll get much later down the line. Anyways, this is where Disney gets the When You Wish Upon a Star song from. And it is everything. It's character development, drama, and so much scary moments. Seriously, how is this for kids? The Pleasure Island scene, that sticks with you forever. Oh my gosh. And alright, next is Fantasia. Another easy S. And this is primarily an art movie, meaning that there's no real plot or anything since it's just a string of different short films, but each of them is so grand in nature. And the animation and music fit so well together. It's something that you really have to see at least once before you die. And I do recommend watching in the theater. And also be warned that the movie is pretty long, so if you're easily bored, this movie is not for you. And besides the Sorcerer's Apprentice, my favorite segment is Night on Bald Mountain and Ave Maria. Dumbo. B. It's very short compared to other Disney movies. A very simple story, too. And also hard to watch at times, especially the scene where Mrs. Jumbo gets taken away from Dumbo. And all the abuse that Dumbo goes through. And it really says a lot that, besides his mom, the only people who are nice to him in the movie are Timothy and the racist crows. And yeah, but still a cute movie, all things considered. Pretty good songs, most of them. And I especially love the pink elephant sequence. I mean, it has nothing to do with the story. It's pretty scary. It might be scary to a little kid, but it's iconic. Bambi. Bambi is another B. Don't get me wrong. It's a good movie and everything. But the plot feels disjointed compared to other movies. It's basically a string of random events happening. And this makes sense since, the movie is about showing nature from life to death, all that good stuff. And what I like the most about the movie is the animal designs. I mean, Snow White, the animals are cute in that. This is where Disney perfected the animal designs. And the environmental design too, because it looks beautiful. And did you know that this movie is the reason why anime characters have such big eyes? Don't believe me? Look it up. And now the golden age ends. And we get to the package era, where Disney released a bunch of movies that were just compilations of short films because they lost a lot of money during World War II. Anyways, first is Saludos, Amigos. The shortest film in Disney anime canon at just 42 minutes. but still very enjoyable, breezy watch with a lot of entertaining cartoons that will really make you feel like you're in South America. And I especially like the Gaucho Goofy short. But for some reason, Disney has a content warning on this, saying that it contains outdated cultural depictions. I mean, sure, this movie was made in the 40s. It's obviously not the most up to date way to educate someone on South America. But still, this movie is not racist. It's, if anything, it's celebrating Latin American culture, not making fun of it. I mean, there's plenty of offensive moments in Disney movies, but this is not one of them. Next is its sequel, Three Caballeros. Another excellent movie with a great emphasis on Latin American culture. And each of the cartoons is beautiful, really, really immersive, and obviously you have the iconic trio of Donald, Jose, and Panchito. Seriously, I don't understand why anyone would think this is racist. I just love seeing having my culture represented in both of these movies. They're celebrating it, not making fun of it. I mean, they have an entire song in Portuguese in the Three Caballeros. Anyway, Make My Music, aka the movie in the canon that's infamous for not being on Disney Plus, and that is because in the first cartoon, The Morning and the Coys, all the characters die by way of reckless gunplay. Seriously, what the hell, Disney? What was up with that? But barring that, the rest of the cartoons are pretty good. I like All the Cats Join In. That was a fun one with unique art style. Peter and the Wolf was pretty good, even if it did drag on for too long. Casey at the Bat, pretty good. And my favorite is The Whale Who Wanted to Sing at the Met, aka the last cartoon. Especially because of the ending, it really punches you in the gut. And this is a movie that is worth hunting down. And because Disney doesn't care about it, you can easily watch it for free on the Internet Archive. It was ripped from an uncut Japanese laserdisc. Also, by the way, the audio is still in English, so you still understand it if you speak English, but it has subtitles that are in Japanese, so yeah. Next is Fun and Fancy Free. The first bad movie in the lineup. This movie is a complete chore to sit through. And the previous package films, they all have some sort of theme. Saludos, amigos, and the Three Caballeros both focus on Latin America. Make My Music, each of the cartoons focuses on music, to the point where it's basically the Walmart version of Fantasia. Fun and Fancy Free. The two featurettes in this, Bongo and Mickey and the Beanstalk, have nothing in common. Bongo starts out pretty good, but then it takes a turn for the worse when Say It With a Slap song comes out. Seriously, this movie is this a short telling us that domestic abuse is okay? And Mickey and the Beanstalk, actually pretty good, but the narration by those stupid and creepy puppets ruins it. I mean, it completely takes out the story with their idiotic quips. And what was the point of adding the live action framing with the little girl's birthday party in this movie? But I do recommend watching Mickey and the Beanstalk by itself. There's a re-narrated version narrated by Ludwig von Drake that is worth hunting down. And it's much more tolerable than those puppets. Next is Melody Time. Also pretty bad. If Make My Music is the Walmart version of Fantasia, and this is the version you get off of Shein. And it's basically a big nothing burger. Once Upon a Winter Time, starts off pretty good, but then it starts getting boring when the song ends. Trees and Bumble Buggy, a whole lot of nothing. Bumble Buggy was originally going to be in Fantasia, but they deleted it, and I can see why, because it would really drag down the movie. Little 2, I used to like it, but after watching it, it's pretty disturbing, especially when the Andrews sisters start saying, "Do or die, do or die, do or die." What? I admit that Blame It on the Samba is pretty good, if only because it marks the return of the Three Caballeros. And The worst is Pico's bill. I mean, that sure drags on forever and ever. It's so boring. And there was a pointless live action scene in this too. What? This really takes you out of it. And final film on the package here is The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Now this is good. It helps that there are just two featurettes, but unlike Fun and Fancy Free, these two featurettes in this movie have something in common because they're both based on English literature, The Wind in the Willows and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I really like The Wind in the Willows. And I actually didn't like a Sleepy Hollow at first, but it really grew on me. And these featurettes both have really strong stories and memorable characters. And I think it's worth watching The Legend of Sleepy Hollow for Halloween. Alright, now we move on to the Silver Age of Disney, starting with Cinderella. If you think Cinderella just did nothing except sit around and wait for a prince to come, were we watching the same movie? Because, to paraphrase a quote from Walt Disney, she believed in wishing on dreams, but she also believed in doing something about them. I mean, Cinderella literally works her butt off so she could go to the ball. I mean, I wish I could have her worth ethic. And to me, this is one of those movies that captures the magic of Disney, much like Pinocchio, Fantasia, and Snow White. Especially because of the scene where the fairy godmother makes a dress for Cinderella. I mean, iconic. Alice in Wonderland. Oh, oops. This is much like Fantasia in that it's really trippy, but in a good way. It successfully conveys the weirdness of Wonderland. And it's just so odd, but it makes no sense at all, but very, very enjoyable. Peter Pan. Unfortunately, this has to go in the C tier. I mean, it does also capture the magic of Disney. It captures a child's imagination. Animation is superb, especially during the scenes where Peter and the kids are flying. And most of the songs are pretty good, but it gets dragged down by the racism. Oh my gosh, the scenes with the Native Americans are really cringe-inducing to sit through, especially during their song. Oh my gosh. It's so hard to watch. Why, Disney? Why? Next is The Lady and the Tramp. Another C, I'm sorry. I wanted to like this one. I really did. And I actually like it a bit more now than the first time I saw it, but I just can't get into it. I mean, I do like the animation. I mean, this is the first Disney movie that was made in CinemaScope, so it has a wider it looks wider, the color is more vibrant, the animation is more fluid. It's really pretty to look at, but I feel like the plot is really weak. And most of the characters are pretty forgettable, and the only scenes I really remember are obviously the spaghetti kiss scene and the Siamese cat song for the wrong reasons. Sleeping Beauty, S. Another film that was made in CinemaScope, and another, which means that it's also absolutely beautiful. I mean, Aurora gets only 18 minutes of screen time, which is a shame, but the movie is really carried by Philip, the Three Good Fairies, and Maleficent. They easily steal the show, especially the Three Good Fairies. They're iconic. And Once Upon a Dream, beautiful song. 101 Dalmatians. No. Shit. Hey. Alright, so Disney blew all their money on making Lady and the Tramp and Sleeping Beauty look excellent, so they had to resort to Xeroxing to make 101 Dalmatians and the next several movies afterwards. which means that the animation looks very scratchy, very pencily, but in the case of this specific movie, it works really well. Especially since, the movie is all about dogs that are black and white. Good story, great and memorable characters, and especially memorable villain with a memorable villain song. Sword in a Stone. Gee, this movie, it's so bad. It's so boring as well. I've seen this movie multiple times actually. I think 3 times already, and it's so boring. You the whole movie is nothing but Merlin and Arthur shapeshifting into random animals. And none of this has anything to do with the plot. In fact, Arthur doesn't pull the sword out of the stone until like the last 4 minutes of the movie. Uh, it's a complete chore to sit through. Alright, next up, The Jungle Book. Now this is good. And, it doesn't have as much filler scenes as Sword in the Stone. Well, the elephant scenes did kind of drag, but all the other scenes they had good pacing, quite memorable. All the songs are very iconic, especially Bare Necessities and I Wanna Be Like You. The Aristocats. B. I must say that animation in this movie is really ugly. Because the Xerox in this movie looks worse than 101 Dalmatians, Jungle Book, and Sword in the Stone. Because the outlines look very scratchy, and there are very many scenes where you could see the pencil lines. But I didn't like this at first, but it's still relatively enjoyable in its own right. It's very sweet, cute, and the central characters are very charming. Edgar is a hilarious villain. He's so pathetic. I mean, it's funny how dumb he is. I mean, cats can't spend money. But I do admit that there are pretty pointless scenes in this, with the dogs chasing Edgar around, and the scene with the drunk goose. I mean, these scenes add nothing to the plot. Quite a chore to sit through. But yeah. Robin Hood. A. Alright. There was a lot of recycled animation in this movie, but the movie was still pretty enjoyable. Pretty good songs. Charming characters. And Robin Hood is an anti-capitalist icon. Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. A. And how can you hate Winnie the Pooh? Well, unless if you're Xi Jinping. Anyways, this is technically another package film since it's three Pooh featurettes combined into one. Got Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. No. Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, and Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, but each of them feels like so connected to each other that you have to watch them all together. You can't watch one without the other. Ian, very cute, very charming, great character, except for Gopher. I hate Gopher. And the Half Lips and Woozle scene. Yeah, it's just a dollar brand, pink elephants on parade, but still quite good in its own right. The Rescuers. B. There's not much to say about this movie, but I did enjoy it. I did like Bernard and Bianca's dynamic, and how they saved Penny from Madame Medusa, who has to be a relatively realistic Disney villain because of her being a child abuser. Yeah. Fox and the Hound. B. Actually, A. I do have my issues with this movie, mainly with how it invented the the plot mandated friendship failure when Copper gets mad at Todd. And it's a very bittersweet movie because it shows you that some friendships don't last forever, but it's very touching. And yeah, I just can't hate it, despite what some people who worked on the movie think about it. I mean, apparently, Tim Burton worked on this movie, and obviously he didn't like it because cutesy and Tim Burton, complete antonyms, complete opposites. But I feel like if it weren't for this movie, we wouldn't have all of the modern Disney movies. It kind of paved the way for that. And this is where the animation starts to get good again. Right. D. The Black Cauldron. Oh, this movie is so awful. It could have potential, but it just feels so bland and way too dark and cynical for a Disney movie. I mean, it feels more like a Ralph Bakshi or even Don Bluth movie more than a Disney movie. But it doesn't have any of the charm or wit of Ralph Bakshi or Don Bluth movies. You can tell they wanted this to be more adult, but no. They had to keep it squeaky clean for kids. Relatively, since they said it's still pretty dark. At least we got the Horde King out of it. One of the few Disney villains to be a complete monster according to TV tropes. Yeah, this is a rare Disney movie that actually deserves a remake because there's so much wrong with this movie that if it were to be remade, I feel like it could be improved a lot on. The Great Mouse Detective. It feels like this is a precursor to the Disney Renaissance because there's nothing to hate about this movie. Memorable characters, some pretty risque elements that you wouldn't expect to see in a Disney movie, and Ratigan, iconic villain. Oliver and Company. I love this movie. I don't know why people hate it. It's so charming, very fun to watch. I love seeing Oliver interact with the dogs and with Jenny. And who knew that a villain of a Disney movie would be a loan shark? I mean, you can't go wrong when you have Billy Joel as a dog in the movie. I mean, they made it work. Why should I worry? Why should I care? Yeah. The Little Mermaid. Now we finally get on to the Disney Renaissance. In this movie, Disney is back. Everything about this movie is perfect. The animation. This is actually the last Disney movie to be Xerox, and yet you can't even tell because it doesn't even have those scratchy pencil lines. It looks so beautiful, and each of the songs, Howard Ashman was a pure genius. I've seen this movie a million times, especially when I was younger, and I never get tired of it. Rescuers Down Under. Yeah, this movie is significantly worse than the first one. It's mostly because Bianca and Bernard are barely in it. Why even call it The Rescuers Down Under? Bianca and Bernard are hardly in it. I mean, this is what people came to see the movie for. The Rescuers. As a result, the movie is pretty boring. There are a lot of pointless scenes. And also, this movie introduces Wilbur, the brother of Orville from the first movie, and he's really, really annoying. Right? Beauty and the Beast. Another cinematic masterpiece. As always, Howard Ashman's songs are beautiful. And especially the animation. During the ballroom scene. It's amazing. James Baxter is a genius. Also, if you think that this movie promotes Stockholm Syndrome, go screw yourself, because it doesn't. Were we even watching the same movie? Because Belle clearly didn't start falling in love with the Beast until he started being nice to her. Jeez, anyway. Aladdin. Yet another god tier movie. I mean, sure, it's pretty outdated with how um how it uh how it portrays Arabic culture. But honestly, Robin Williams carried this movie. I mean, yeah, obviously, I already said that Billy Joel was in Oliver and Company as what's his name? Yeah, Dodger. Also had Vincent Price in The Great Mouse Detective and Mickey Rooney in The Fox and the Hound. But Aladdin with Robin Williams as a genie, that's when celebrity casting got really popular. But unlike most celebrities these days, which only do animated movies for the paycheck, Robin Williams seemed to really enjoy his role. And he will be missed, along with Gilbert Gottfried, who voiced Iago. And as always, Howard Ashman's songs and the animation are beautiful. The Lion King. Where else would I put this but S? Everything in this movie is perfect. And if you didn't know, this movie is a parody of Hamlet by Shakespeare, with but with African animals. And but it manages to differentiate itself so much from it that you can't even tell that's based on a Shakespeare play. It's so epic in scale, everything about it, from the character development that Simba goes through, to Scar being one of the scariest Disney villains, having an epic villain song. Actually, all of the songs are epic. Yeah, it deserves its title as the best movie of all time. It's not my favorite personally, but it's definitely among the best. Well, we haven't gone to my favorite movie yet, but we will soon. Pocahontas. F. Not even the animation and song can save this movie from being utter disaster. What was he thinking when they made this movie? How would you take a real person's story and make it into this watered down fairy tale? Oh my, Pocahontas was a real person. And she was literally 12 when she met John Smith. And now you want to make her fall in love with him? What? Why? Just why? And the worst part is that Disney still acts like there's nothing wrong with this movie. They still sell toys of Pocahontas. They still feature Pocahontas in crossovers. And they still promote this movie like there's nothing wrong with it. And you know what? This movie doesn't even have a warning on Disney Plus. If I were Disney, I would try to bury this Star exclusive movie to the same level that they bury Song of the South. Yeah, easily my least favorite Disney movie ever made. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Another S. Now, this is how you do a good dark Disney movie. Take notes, Black Cauldron. I mean, yeah, the gargoyles were added to be kid friendly. They're pretty annoying. They don't contribute much to the plot. And their song was pretty mid, but otherwise, everything is perfect from the animation to how it realistically portrays discrimination. I mean, Frollo has to be my favorite Disney villain ever, because he's the most evil. And the reason why he's the most evil is because he's the most realistic. I mean, you don't have wicked wizards or whatever in real life, but people who think the way Frollo does, who think that their religion excuses them from being evil and discriminate against minorities, they are very real and very scary. And I don't feel bad for him being dragged off to hell. It's what he deserves. Hercules. No, I know this movie is really inaccurate with the Greek mythology. For example, Hercules should really be called Heracles, but it's still very enjoyable in its own right. Great animation as always. All of the songs are great. And, like I said, it's inaccurate, but it's a great springboard for kids to learn about the real Greek myths, much like Percy Jackson in a way. Mulan. Yet another S. I mean, and the Disney Renaissance, with a few hiccups They just kept putting out banger after banger. I mean, I think Mulan has to be one of my favorite Disney princesses. Because she's brave, she's strong. She sacrificed everything just to save her dad. She ended up saving all of China. And literally the only complaint I have of this movie is that, uh, the villain, very forgettable. But still, excellent. Tarzan. What a surprise! It's S. Yeah. And you can't go wrong when you have Phil Collins posing your soundtrack. I mean, he didn't have to go so hard. This is just a Disney movie about a guy raised by gorillas. Yet, Phil Collins composed fire songs. I wanna know, can you show me? I wanna know about these strangers like me. Yeah. Amazing. Fantasia 2000. I have to put this in A, since obviously I don't like this as much as the first Fantasia, but it's so great. And this movie is worth watching just for Rhapsody in Blue. Rhapsody in Blue, banger short. Dinosaur. Ugh. This movie, boring. This movie is pretty unique because it doesn't really look like a Disney movie. It was made using CGI and filmed on real life backdrops. But it really doesn't feel like a Disney movie. The opening meteor shower scene was pretty good, but then just gets boring after that, and the characters very forgettable or annoying, especially those lemurs. I think they were. Whatever, I don't care about them. I think you only like this movie if you're a dinosaur geek. The Emperor's New Groove. S. This movie went through so much production troubles because it was originally more serious entitled Kingdom of the Sun, but the end result was more of a lighthearted comedy. It's easily one of Disney's best. And it's hilarious. Each of the characters are iconic, especially Kronk. We stand a himbo in this household. And it's a rare Disney movie to have a villain be the protagonist, because Cusco is initially a villain, very selfish, and he wanted to build a theme park after himself that would have made Pacha become homeless, but he saw the error of his ways, and yeah. Best character development history, Zuko Eat Your Heart Out. Atlantis. A. This movie really did not deserve to flop at the box office. It really didn't. I feel like Disney sci-fi adventure movies all have this curse they um where they all fail at the box office, but this movie is worth checking out because it has a great story, great mythology, great voice acting. You know, Michael J. Fox, great as Milo. And you even have Cree Summer, the famous cartoon voice actress, as Kita. In Cree Summer's performance as Kita makes a case for why we need actual cartoon voice actors to be animated movies and not just bored celebrities. I mean, Michael J. Fox did a good job, obviously, but still. Anyway, Lilo and Stitch, A. This one has sci-fi elements too, but it's not really an adventure story like Atlantis, and the next movie we will get to in a little bit, but still. I think Lilo and Stitch is a great movie. We love weird girls in this household, and Stitch, iconic. A great soundtrack, especially Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride and all the Elvis Presley songs that fit great due to Lilo's love of Elvis Presley. Treasure Planet. S. This movie is so underrated, and like Atlantis, it really filled at the box office, especially because it was so expensive because of the CG they use in the movie. But it's definitely worth checking out. It's basically a classic pirate book, Treasure Island, but in space. Since they're looking for Treasure Planet. And this movie has a great soundtrack, great animation, lovable characters, a great father-son dynamic between Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver. And if you want movies about daddy issues, this movie is right up your alley. Brother Bear. I had to put this in the B category. I mean, it had a good story and everything. It had a good message that I wanted to send. And obviously the animation was great, especially the scene where Kenai was transformed into a bear, but there's a big gripe I have with this movie, and that's the scene where Kenai confesses to killing Koda's mom. I mean, they completely censored out what he was saying and played a Phil Collins song over it. I mean, the songs are great as always because you can't go wrong with Phil Collins, but still, I feel like it would have been more powerful to hear what Kenai was actually saying. Why? Just why? Home on the Range. Pretty bad. No, this isn't as bad as people make it out to be, but still not that good. I feel like the storyline could have potential, but jokes really not funny. Characters very bland. Don't get much development or backstory. I mean, we never get to see Maggie's backstory as a show cow, and yeah. Also, a villain that hypnotizes cows by yodeling. What? What were they smoking in the writer's room? This scene is just so weird, but at least the song Will the Sun Ever Shine Again, that was a great song. Chicken Little. Another really bad movie. Now, this is Disney's first completely CGI movie. Since I already talked about how Dinosaur used CGI dinosaurs, but that's filmed on a live action backdrop. Chicken Little, CGI animation is very ugly. I know that it was made in 2005, but it still feels very half-baked for a Disney movie. I mean, they're the biggest media company in the world. They can put out better stuff than this. And it really says a lot when the character intended to be ugly, that being Abby Mallard, aka Ugly Duckling, actually looks cuter than most of the characters. But must say, I do really like the soundtrack. Soundtrack is a banger. Other than that, very hard to watch movie. And just, if you've been bullied or you have bad parents, you're definitely not gonna like this movie because Buck Cluck, awful father. I would make a KFC bug out of him if I could, and the other people that live in Okiokes are not they're no better. Yeah, overall, very hard to watch movie. Very bleak. Like the Black Cauldron, almost, but, more lighthearted, I guess, more comedic. Meet the Robinsons. S. This movie is so underrated. You should definitely give it a chance. I really like the 50s, 60s space aesthetic they had going on. And the bowler hat guy seems like a lame villain, but he achieves that perfect balance between a comedic, dastardly whiplash type villain and a villain with a very sympathetic backstory and sympathetic motivation. And yeah, bowler hat guy, iconic. Each of the characters very memorable and has a great message that I think everyone should learn. Keep moving forward. Bull. This one was actually pretty good. I didn't pay much attention to it at first, but after watching this movie for my marathon, this movie really deserves more attention. Because think of it as like the Truman Show, but with animals. Because, Bolt has been conditioned to believe that he's the star of a TV show and he really has powers. It's a really good look into uh, Hollywood, and it's like a big middle finger to Hollywood bigwigs. Princess and the Frog. Yet another S tier film. I mean, not only is the 2D animation great, but it's a very immersive look into life in New Orleans in the 1920s. Tiana and Irene, they're a Disney couple that actually have chemistry with each other, and Dr. Facilier, iconic. Because he's unapologetically evil. In the scene where he gets dragged off to hell by his friends on the other side, chef's kiss, iconic. Tangled. Another S tier movie. What a surprise. Anyways, there's so much to love about this movie. It's the animation. I mean, look at how they animated Rapunzel's hair. Every single strand of it. And she had like 70 feet of hair. And the animators, they deserve a big raise if they didn't get one, which, knowing how Disney treats its employees, is probably not likely. In Mother Gothel, one of the last traditional Disney villains that we'll get for a while, since from here on out it's gonna be either fake threats or twist villains. I forgot to mention Rapunzel and Eugene, iconic couple with actual chemistry between them, and great songs as well. Especially I See the Light and When Will My Life Begin. Winnie the Pooh 2011. This movie is really special because it's the last 2D animated movie that Disney will ever made, and it may be surprising to hear that this movie is in the S tier, but you know, this, like I said, this movie is very special, and it has a short runtime compared to other Disney movies, but it's still longer than Saludos Amigos. But it's a simple story with great performances because they got most of the regular Pooh actors to play their roles again in this movie, and Tom Kenny as a rabbit, something I never knew I needed, but just fits so well. And also, there's no real villain in this movie. The backstory was all made up, but we do see him in the post-credits scene, and he's actually really harmless. Actually, the whole plot is a retread of the direct-to-DVD movie Pooh's Great Adventure: The Search for Christopher Robin. But it's still a great movie. Like I said before, simple story, but with a great execution. Lovable characters as always, and clever wordplay too. Wreck-It Ralph. A. I love this movie, but I feel like I'm being too generous at putting a lot of movies in the S slot, so we're gonna put it here. Wreck-It Ralph. We all know that video game movies suck, but Wreck-It Ralph is not one of them. Probably because it's not based on an existing game, but it combines cameos from multiple video game characters into one movie. It feels like Disney was really passionate about getting the rights to various video game characters. Like, you have characters from Sonic, Mario, Street Fighter, Pac-Man, even Cubert. It just fits so well with the setting, and very interesting lore, different universes like Fix-It Felix Jr., Hero's Duty, Sugar Rush, Turbo, great villain. I wouldn't say he's exactly a twist villain, because we already know that Turbo is bad, but we don't know he was pretending to be King Candy, but yeah. Turbo, excellent villain. Frozen. Yeah, I know, it's been overexposed and the songs are replayed, but I've also watched the movie like a million times, and I have to say, this movie still really holds up even after 10 years. Sure, it's not the most original movie. I mean, the sisterly love theme has already been done in Lilo and Stitch, but it's still very enjoyable in its own right, with great and lovable characters. And yeah, to admit, the songs are still great even if they've been overplayed. Let It Go was popular for a reason, people, and on the subject of villains, I still think Hans is a great villain, because of him being a parody of the Prince Charming archetype. I mean, the fact that he wanted to marry Anna on the day he met her should have raised red flags immediately, so you can't say there was a build-up. There was no build-up. And there's a lot of hidden clues during levels in Open Door. And there's actually a lot of detail put into this movie that, if you're eagle-eyed, you will appreciate greatly. Big Hero 6. I love this movie. I love Baymax and everything. I love how they combine San Francisco and Tokyo, and combine also, and in doing so, they also combine several Western comic tropes and anime tropes. I mean, it doesn't have an especially anime-like art style, but come on. You can't say that you weren't reminded of Super Sentai. And one complaint I have of this movie, the villain. This is where Disney villains start to get pretty weak. Callahan. Very weak, very forgettable, poor motivation. Also his line. That was his mistake. So, he's just cruel for the sake of being cruel. I mean, completely dismissed Tadashi sacrificing himself in that fire to save him. What? Oh my. And there was no build up to the fact that he was really yokai either. Yeah. Zootopia. I'm really sorry, I know this movie is really popular, but I have to put it at B. Why? Because, well, I know it tries to tackle racism, but you have to be really careful when you put racism into a fantasy context, especially when you're dealing with animals, because, the predators were discriminated by the prey, and, they were depicted as being inherently savage and rightfully feared, and I feel like that sends a really bad message that some people are inherently dangerous and deserve to be oppressed, but it still had its moments. I mean, Try Again is a great song, and I really love how the world of Zootopia actually acknowledges that the characters are animals. I mean, there's a lot of movies where the characters are animals for no reason, and you could remake the story with humans, but with Zootopia, the fact that they're animals is the key part of the plot, and they have various nods to the fact that they're animals, like how Judy's family farms carrots, or how Flash is really slow and works at the DMV, which, if you've been to the DMV, you know that it is slow. And, there's a lot of funny in-jokes about it. So yeah, definitely not a bad movie by any means, but not my favorite, I'm sorry. Moana. S. I mean, Disney really went out on the research. They really did their homework on Polynesian culture and incorporating the legend of Maui into the narrative. Plus, you can't go wrong with Lin-Manuel Miranda composing our soundtrack. Say what you want, but each of the songs is a complete banger. And even Shiny. Why do people not like Shiny? I mean, Tamatoa isn't really the biggest thread in the movie, but I really like the song because it's reminiscent of David Bowie. Also, the water animation. It's so beautiful. Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph Breaks the Internet. This movie is really, really bad. It's one of those movies that gets worse every time you watch it. I mean, Ralph is turned into a bumbling idiot with a creepy codependency with Vanellope. It's filled with pandering, with trends and memes and brand recognition, like, oh, look, here's eBay, look, here's Twitter, here's Google. Oh my, it feels so cynical. Especially with the Oh My Disney scene. You have all these Star Wars and Disney characters walking around. Also, did you know that the Oh My Disney website doesn't exist anymore? Yeah. But I did like Disney Princess scene, I must admit. Frozen 2. Oh wait, actually, no, I'm gonna put it in S tier. I don't know why people don't like this movie. I really like this movie, and I actually like it more than Frozen because of the character development and the songs. I mean, songs in Frozen 1 were good, but Frozen 2, something else. All the songs are great, and I never get tired of listening to them. I actually downloaded the entire soundtrack. I love it. And, I like that it provided an explanation for Elsa's powers and all that. And, yeah. And, yeah, King Runyard can go screw himself. Find the Last Dragon, C. I liked it at first when I watched it, but I didn't like the way that they treated Southeast Asian culture because half of these cultures combined into one: Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, the Philippines, but it feels kind of disrespectful mishmashing cultures together. And, the story and lesson wasn't the greatest. I mean, Raya has every reason not to be trustworthy with others because Namari would treat her for the dragon gem. But then, the story treats Raya as if she's in the wrong for not immediately trusting strangers on the street. And then Namari betrays her again. Namari, I can't stand her. Very weak villain, very lame excuse, very toxic friend. Yeah. This movie does have its good points as its moments, but I don't like it as much as other Disney movies. Oh, and Sisu, very annoying. Encanto. If you wonder what my favorite Disney movie is, this is it. It managed to even top Pinocchio. I can't express how much I love this movie. I mean, everything about it is perfect. And yeah, it doesn't have a villain, but it doesn't need one. I mean, the conflict between among the family is just, it doesn't make sense. And I love how it addresses generational trauma and healing from it. It's a great movie that, like Saludos, Amigos, and Three Caballeros, honors Latin American culture, Colombia to be specific. And they really, really, really did their research. Even in the little things like Dolores making squeak sound when she spreads gossip, because that's the thing that some Colombian people actually do when they share gossiping. Also, Lin-Manuel Miranda, amazing. Next, Strange World. I feel like it's a solid B. This movie didn't deserve to bomb the box office. I mean, that's just a curse with Disney sci-fi adventure movies, as I've already detailed with Atlantis and Treasure Planet. But, Strange World, I feel like it had a pretty solid premise, and the strange world that they went to, it's actually pretty well animated and very interesting. And like Encanto, this one focuses on generational trauma, and like Treasure Planet, again, focuses on daddy issues. I mean, you have Jaeger being a complete jerk to Searcher, not letting him be a farmer, and then Searcher being a jerk to his son Ethan by not letting him be explorer, forcing him to be a farmer. Basically, the cycle of bad parenting. And I like that they all made up at the end. And yeah, that was nice. But the twist, it really made me roll my eyes. And I didn't like any of the other characters except for the Clades. I mean, they were such complete jerks to lock in the closet on the ship. They could have suffocated in there anyway. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. Wish. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, this movie, yeah, it's a great love letter to 100 years of Disney. And it's better than I thought. I mean, it got a lot of bad reviews, pretty mediocre reception. Everyone's treating it as if it's the worst thing ever, but it's really not. As it's good points, pretty lovable characters, especially the villain. He absolutely carried the movie. I mean, it's very nice to have a clear Disney villain for once. One with a villain song, too. because we haven't had them since, uh, what was an open door? Hans was a twist villain, so yeah. Mother knows best because it's made clear from the start that Mother Gothel is a bad person. It's made clear that King Magnifico is a bad person too, because he's very selfish to keep all the wishes and not grant any of them. Asha, strong protagonist, and there's a lot of hidden Disney Easter eggs in the movie, like how Asha's friends are parodies of the Seven Dwarfs and have the same personalities as them. There's a lot of other references to Disney movies too. Even Mary Poppins, which isn't in the animated canon because it's a live action movie. Even and yeah, very enjoyable love letter to Disney. And the songs were great too. Y'all are just mean. I really love the songs. But the main problem I have with the movie is the twist. And I'm not gonna spoil it here. You have to watch the movie for yourself, but a twist with one of the characters really made me roll my eyes because it came out of nowhere. Feel like the writers pulled it out of their butt. Yeah, and animation not the best. I mean, I feel like they were going for a painted CGI style similar to Spider-Verse, Mitchell's versus the Machines, and Mutant Mayhem, but it feels more 3D than 2D. Like, they want to go for this watercolor-like feel to mimic the classic 2D animated movies, but like I said, more CGI than 2D. Yeah, that's my official ranking of the Disney animated canon. For now, at least. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on each of these movies and where you would rank them. And thanks for watching. Goodbye, everyone. And happy 100 years of Disney.